Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you another video. All right, I stopped my breakfast. I was listening to Trevor Lane on Laker Nation talk about a situation where he accidentally spilled a burrito bowl all over his mother-in-law. Classic, absolutely classic story. I love that. But what came to mind was after he finished telling that story, he was basically saying that time stood still for him in that situation, as well as when he saw the shot heard around the world that Jamal Murray just hit on the Lakers in Game 2, and how it was a disaster, playing itself out in slow motion. And I felt the exact same way. I felt the exact same way. You know, I had already come to terms with my pessimism on that basketball game early in the fourth quarter. I didn't know how, but it was almost like the inverted and unfortunate faith in the Nuggets. That's what it became for me. It's like I'm not rooting for the Nuggets, but I have all the faith in the world in them to come back and win this basketball game based on all the evidence I've seen versus us. The fact that they are as confident as they are just in general as a basketball team and how well oiled they are, listening to analysts talk about how they could just go to certain plays when they need a bucket and be certain that those plays will get them a bucket and various different things that just prove that they are, as they are, the defending world champions. And in the 8-minute mark, I was pretty much certain that the Lakers had given them the game, and now it was just up to them to take it. And I had all the faith in the world in them to do so, and it did play out that way. But it's just one of those situations where you look back at your mistakes and then you look at the decisions that they made, and you just realize they're not making the mistakes you're making as a team. And then down the stretch of the basketball game, you start seeing them hit free throws. You start seeing us respond with different shots, but you also see them coming back down, just weathering that storm together. And it just became a situation where I felt like if the Lakers didn't make everything absolutely perfect down the stretch of that basketball game, then the Nuggets are going to find a way to win it. And when Jamal Murray had the final shot, 4 seconds to go, dribbling toward AD, I'm thinking to myself, AD has to be careful, because if he jumps too hard and lands on this dude, it's a foul. Free throw, go to the line. He's going to take care of it there. But if he doesn't jump high enough, he ain't going to get to the shot, and Jamal Murray is probably going to make the shot. And as I'm seeing the shot go, it really was in slow motion for me. My mind stood still as that shot was going up, and you could hear the crowd. As soon as the shot fell, you could hear the crowd erupt, and you knew, based on the timing of the shot, that there was no question. It didn't need to be reviewed. It wasn't bad, and you just knew we had blown the game again. And with a 20-point lead having been captured in that basketball game, up by 12 in parts of the fourth quarter, you didn't just feel like you lost the game. You felt like you lost the series, because you knew your team and your stars had been efficient, especially Anthony Davis. He couldn't miss in the first half. D'Lo hit 5 threes in the first half. It's very difficult to see those things playing out the same way in regards to us being very efficient versus Jamal Murray, who just hit this shot now, ever being as inefficient as he was in the first 2 games up until that point. He had found his rhythm. Jokic is going to do Jokic things. Porter doesn't seem to be bothered at all by his personal stuff with his brothers. It's just not working out. KCP seems to be having a good series thus far. With the exception of the 3-point line, some of their role players are playing well, like Christian Brown. Even Watson hit 2 threes to start the series. It's just one of those situations where it's like everybody's gaining confidence except for the Lakers. Everybody in the Nuggets is gaining confidence, and even though they now have to go on the road, they don't have any problem winning here. We know that. They've won all the time here, as we can clearly see in this 10-game losing streak. So, and not only that, but they beat us under stressful circumstances. Now, maybe I could use that as an excuse to say not stressful, but celebratory would be a better way to describe it. We're celebrating Bron's 40,000 points. You're celebrating, Kobe Bryant's statue going up. Maybe you could say the team was distracted. Maybe that, but those were home games that we lost, man. And I just I just think when it really comes down to it, the Lakers' pride is shattered when it comes to this team, and I don't know that they have the fight in them to return that to us. Not to mention that I went on the record yesterday thinking all types of thoughts about corruption and the possibility of people wanting to lose on purpose. It just doesn't look good, man. None of it looks very good. I'm frustrated. I did listen to the panel that Gilbert Arenas had on his Gil Arena podcast, and they were essentially bringing some knowledge to me in regards to the play that LeBron James was complaining about, the one that I also too complained about, where D'Angelo got hit in the head. First of all, they got something called marginal contact that they're actually writing into the rule book, to where if it's certain type of contact that they don't feel is very enforceful, they will allow it, which is a big part of what the concern is there, marginal contact. I don't know when they put that in the rule book, but they're allowing marginal contact. And also, they were essentially describing the fact that a lot of times when they go up on layups, if the layup is, in fact, out of the guy's hands, then in their experiences playing the game, they don't call it a lot of times after with the contact coming after the ball has been released. So that made me more so informed about just how I should view D'Angelo Russell's play in the third quarter, where he was going up for the layup and then was proceeded to get hit in the head. You know, the way that Kenyon Martin described something that he did, he hit somebody in the head. They were bleeding on the floor. They didn't call nothing because the ball had been released, which is silly to me when you consider, so much of what contact is in other areas of this sport is considered a foul. But you can hit a guy square in the head after the ball is released on a layup, and they won't call it. I just think that that's a flaw in the rules. But nevertheless, it does bring me a little more context to kind of, I guess, calm down as it pertains to how regularly I should expect something like that to happen. But what I do ask, just like with everything else, is that the NBA be consistent. I don't want to see Anthony Davis getting called for no fouls if a dude goes up for a layup and after the ball is released, he pops him dead in the skull. It shouldn't be no problem, because you've shown and set the precedent that is what is fine. I don't care if it's a concussion. This is what you've set the tone for, NBA, and the excellence that we expect from you is consistency, straight up and down. So that's what I have to say to the NBA about that nonsense. It's nonsense, but I now know that I should expect it, and so I will. And so that's what I wanted to say there. Just wanted to kind of bring some light to my understanding. That's why it's important for me to listen to people who play the game, professionals. I'm not one of those non-playing basketball fans that think he know every damn thing and don't want to listen to the pros. If they say something is regular, then damn it, I will adjust my thinking and tell all of you guys my thinking is adjusted. This is regular, that's what it is. I may think I see something else on the court, but if they tell me they see something for real, then that's what the hell it is. And I know how important that is. Knowing your place as a fan. Obviously, we think we know the sport. Played a video game for 12 hours a day for 15 years. Like, I obsessed over it. Not literally 12 hours, but it was a ridiculous amount of time that I hid my soul in them games and studied the sport from that angle. But when I listen to people who actually play the game, like really play the game in a high level, I realize there are points of view that I need to understand that I'll never gain. It's not going to happen. And so I respect that, and I'm always looking for pros and those who play the game at a high level to enlighten me and make me better, at what it is that I'm doing here. So that's something that I wanted to say. I respect the game, and I respect those who play it. A lot of times it's easy to assess their jobs, but what's not easy to assess is the pressure they're under and how easy it is to access thoughts about what needs to be done in the moment. A lot of times we look at these coaches and say, why didn't you do this? Or look at these players and say, why didn't you figure that out? It's because they were stressed about what they were dealing with, and that's not the thought that came to mind, unfortunately. But the excellent ones, the ones who are the most great, are going to execute properly regardless. They're going to have instincts that help them with those things, so on and so forth. So a lot of the stuff that we critique, I don't know that most of us can handle those stresses. If we were in their feet, in their shoes, I don't know that we can handle those stresses, especially on such a high level of what they do. A lot of us, we're professionals of what we do, but this is not the cream of the crop of what it is that we do. We just are one of many. In their field, they're the cream of the crop. So if you go up against the best of the best, like the Denver Nuggets, you do have to play perfect ball. And if you're not able to access the right thoughts in the right moment, where you're not able to make the right decisions, or if you're tired because altitude is kicking your behind and you can't think because of it, for which a lot of us can attest to in our various lives. When you're tired, it's hard to think. I mean, that's a real advantage for the Denver Nuggets at altitude. So these are different things that I think could affect the Lakers when they see the Denver Nuggets. And this is something that I wanted the Lakers to kind of have a better understanding of how to prepare for. You got to, and I think they would have benefited from this. I really do. If they would have immediately left New Orleans and went straight to Denver. Ain't no need to come back to Los Angeles. The games weren't played in Los Angeles. You got to fly all the way across the country to Los Angeles and then fly all the way back, double back to Denver. No, you should have went from New Orleans to Denver. As soon as the New Orleans game was over, the urgency to adapt the players' bodies to that altitude should have been the most important thing. The most important thing, man. And I know we didn't know if we were leaving New Orleans to go back to Los Angeles or to Phoenix or to Sacramento. It was a lot of different things that could have happened in that situation after playing the New Orleans Pelicans if we would have lost. But as soon as we won, it should have been already set in stone. Hey, we are going to Denver. We're going to get up there, and as soon as we get up there, we're going to start practicing and jogging and doing all types of strenuous stuff that'll allow our bodies to further adapt to this altitude. And by the time game 1 and game 2 comes around, our body should be a little more adjusted to it. It's important, man. And I don't think a lot of people respect that. And I think the Lakers, some of our Laker players, showed in their effort that they were fatigued. And I think a lot of that fatigue, looking at what I'm seeing from these analysts, is what has catered to a lot of what went wrong against the Lakers. And the Nuggets going to benefit. They don't have that problem. They're going to get back. That's not a problem. And so getting back, sliding your feet, having the energy to push around is important when you're going up against the Denver Nuggets. And guys got to be ready. And the only way they're going to be ready is the sooner they get to altitude, the more ready they'll likely be. And I'll tell you something else. This may sound a little extreme, but I do think athletes should probably train up there in the off season. I think a lot of athletes should consider training in altitude, because at the end of the day, I'm not a doctor. I don't really know how all this works, but if Denver has that much of an advantage, if they have that much of an advantage because of that altitude, then I'm going to want to train it as much as possible. I want to get my body as acclimated to it as humanly possible. Period. I don't want them to have that advantage over me, especially if I'm the Lakers and I'm losing it in 10 times in a row. I know we used to have training camp in Hawaii. I would have training camp in Boulder. Like, literally. I would have it in Denver, because at the end of the day, that altitude is a real severe advantage to one of the most dominating teams in the basketball. They don't need that advantage, but they have it. And so while you got to go up there and play perfect ball, your body's also working against something that's foreign. I'm not going to let that be the case. If I'm an athlete, I'm not letting it happen. I'm going to be training in Denver. And so that's just something I want to throw out there. Not only for the Lakers, but damn near everybody. Like, damn near everybody. I would be training in Denver, if at all possible. And if not Denver, Utah, where altitude is also very high. Or somewhere else where altitude is very high. Because I can't have what happened to the Lakers in game 1 and game 2 happen if I've already lost however many games in a row it's about to be to this team. I ain't letting it happen next year. That's not happening. I don't know how I'm going to be able to close the gap on that team, but I'm definitely going to close the gap. And I think it starts with trying your best to adapt to what it is that they're very comfortable with, which is an unfair advantage of altitude. Very unfair, if I'm being real. And so that's really what it is. I'm not telling as I've said on the record, I don't believe that the NBA should leave Denver or anything like that. I don't think sports teams should not be in Denver. No, I don't think that. I just think that athletes need to be able to train out there. I think they should want to. I really do. Because if they have an unfair advantage, a guy that's 300 pounds don't never get tired. Half of that is because he trains in altitude at all times, if you really consider it. People wonder, how come Jokic never gets tired? Because he plays in Denver. So when he comes to your town, he ain't got no problem. He's used to playing in altitude. Makes for better conditioning as far as I can tell. So yeah, man, those are things that are on my mind, man. Just a few thoughts. I wanted to give y'all a Laker video, man. Obviously, yesterday I was very frustrated. I'm not coming off of that at all, but you know, we got to get back to the business of trying to compete and trying to believe in what could be compromised. You know what I mean? You want to think that you have a chance of winning and that it's not rigged for you to lose, but the reality is it looks like it could be, and we've known that for years. But we can't really do what we do as talking heads thinking about that. You know what I mean? We got to assume that it's not and just work with what you can. But I think one thing that I would tell athletes to do, if the sport is on the up and up and isn't actually rigged, then give themselves the best advantage they can to go up against a team like Denver, who's always got altitude, man. If I'm Wemby, I'm training in altitude. If I'm, you know what I mean? Any of these guys are going to have to deal with the Denver Nuggets going forward on a very high level 4 times a year. 2 times a year, of course. Plus playoffs, yeah. You gonna want to snatch that advantage from that team if you have any chance of beating them at what they do. And so that's what I have to say to you, man. You know, we're down 0-2. We're not down and out. We just got to take care of home, which against this team does feel like a mountain to climb, but that is what's required. It wouldn't be the first time we were down 0-2 and came back and tied the series up. But the idea is to try to do things better, continue to go to what works, overcome what we have no control over, like them playing well or Darvin Ham and his rotations that do not work. And, just do your best, I guess. I mean, it's hard when Darvin want to put 3 guards on the floor and Taurean Prince at the 4 and then leave AD out there like he's supposed to make everything right out of that. I think a lot of what hurts us is Darvin Ham's rotations, and there's no way to overcome that if he's going to leave you at a size disadvantage. Which I think for me is probably the most frustrating part of this. You could tell guys play well all day long, but if he's not going to do what helps you, then you can still find yourself at a disadvantage against a team that makes you pay for your mistakes. And I think a lot of that is what we saw in the first 2 games, was his tendencies to mess things up and our team's inability to overcome it, coupled with the psychological stress of going up against a team that has your number. So that's what it is. They got our number, and they dial it every time they see us, no matter what the lead is, and their confidence is growing even further based on how they won these first 2 games. And, the Lakers, to overcome that, would have to overcome one of the most devastating first 2 games of any playoff series in my lifetime. To being honest, it's the tallest task. It ain't just a tall task, it's the tallest task. And so that's really what it is, man. You hate to get hit this hard by a team that already has a severe advantage against you mentally and on the basketball floor. And the way these 2 games went were rather cruel. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. I'm going to finish my breakfast and get my day started. But I did want to give you guys an early Laker video. And that's pretty much the thought there. BDF44. Thank y'all for watching.